Welcome everyone. My name is Yerzhan. I'm a software engineer at Meta. Today I will be doing a presentation called Best Practices for the Software Engineering and Project Management. Let me share my screen first. Yep, hopefully you can see my screen. Can you write in the chat if you can see my screen? Yep, sounds good. Yeah, so my name is Yerzhan, and the presentation called Best Practices for Software Engineering Project Management. Yeah, about me. Sorry. This one. Yeah, about me. I'm a software engineer with over 5 years of experience. Previously, I have worked in a companies like Meta, EPAM. Yep. So I will be talking about my experience of how I used to manage projects in those companies. Outline of this presentation. First section will be about project management. Second section about project stages. Section 3 about best practices, and last section will be Q&A from the audience. So I will be happy to hear questions from you. So first section called project management. So what is a project? Let's get started with some basics. First of all, a project is a series of tasks to achieve some goal. In the software engineering, it's most of the time, some feature or some product that needs to be rolled out to customers. It includes careful planning, because without careful planning, it's hard to complete projects in the defined budget or in defined timelines. So planning is important stage of projects. Usually projects require teamwork, because if it's like big feature or big product, usually it's not completed by one person and requires collaborating with other people, like project managers, engineering managers, designers, other engineers, etc. Project needs to go in the certain direction, so there is no way that project is just, I don't know, executing to be executed or something like that. The goal of the project is to be completed to get some outcome. So projects usually done is within like certain time frame that defined by the people involved in the project planning, and in some project budget. In the project budget or resources, there could be many stuff like actual money that people spend on the projects, or the people resources, so how many people you allocate to that project. And what is a project management? So we defined what the project is, but what does it mean to manage the project? Usually it involves planning and organizing. So you plan what you will be building, how you will be building, etc. And organizing, again, like around organizing people, tasks, resources, etc., etc. The second one is task management. So when you will be doing your project, you will have list of items, list of tasks that you need to complete to achieve the goal. So your goal will be to manage those tasks, track the status, manage some issues with those tasks, and basically like complete those tasks within certain time frame. Also, you need to keep track of the budget and the resources so that during the planning stage, you allocate some budget, some money or some people into your project, and you need to stay within those boundaries. And if you go beyond those boundaries, beyond the budget and resources you have defined, that might cause a lot of frustration for the team, and yeah, it might impact your project success. Last one is risks. So there will be, during like execution and like launch of the project, there will be a lot of problems, unknowns that might eventually get your project blocked, and your project might fall into the cracks during the like execution of the project. So your job as a if you are managing that project will be to mitigate those risks as early as possible and make sure that your project is not blocked and you can move on and you can ship your project to customers. Yep. So we will talk about these items in details later. There is could be a question like who should manage the project. As I mentioned, there are might be multiple people in the team, like designer, engineering manager, program manager, engineers, etc. So there are many people involved in the project execution. So who should be manage the project? So usually, if the project is small or medium sized, it is managed by engineers because engineers won't have the ability like full time for project management, because project management is like full-time work, and the expectations from the engineers is usually not only like managing project but also writing some code, maybe doing other stuff like writing tests, doing some instrumentation, etc. So engineers might not have full capacity to manage really big projects. So in that case, usually if the project is small or medium, it is managed by engineers. But if the project is really big, in that case, usually project managed by other people like engineering managers, product managers, project managers, etc. So depending on the size, yeah, the owner of the project might change. If there are multiple projects, if it's like big initiative that includes many projects, so it's like one project in which has inside multiple projects, it's called a program, and that usually managed by technical program managers, which we call TPMs. So those projects, very big projects, or when there is a project that includes multiple smaller projects inside it, that usually managed by TPMs. You might be asking yourself about like how big technology companies like, I don't know, Google, Meta, or EPAM, or other companies do like execution. So what kind of methodology do they use? Usually there are like popular methodologies like Scrum, Kanban, Agile on the market. But the thing is, there is no one methodology used by big tech companies or general like in the software engineering field. The reason is that usually there is no one methodology that can fit all. So people might, from team to team, they can modify how they approach managing project, and they usually might add something on top of the existing methodology or remove some steps if they feel like this methodology is slowing them down. So there is no one methodology I can recommend to you. So you basically need to see what fits your team, what works best for your team, and yeah. So basically, it's up to you. So there is nothing like, oh, Scrum is better, Kanban is better, or something like that. So the main goal is basically completing your project in the given constraints. In the project management, there will be people called stakeholders. So who are the stakeholders? Stakeholders have a vested interest in the project outcome. So basically, those are the people who are interested in the success of your project and the people who make decisions about your project. So in the stakeholders, it might be managers, engineering managers, product managers, it might be designers, other engineers, so anyone who are involved in the decision making. So basically, it's like key people in the project. And those people, stakeholders, they impact the success of the project. They impact the direction of the project. They make decisions about like either project should move this direction, etc. So it's very important keep them on track as a project owner. You need to keep them posted. So if there are any updates happening, any changes happening within the project, you need to share these updates with the stakeholders. You need to share the progress of the project, and you need to highlight risks. So if there is anything that is blocking the project and potentially could lead to that project being blocked or not launched at some point, you need to highlight that to the stakeholders and ask them for the feedback. So any stage, again, like you need to constantly ask for feedback. Why feedback is important? To make sure that you are going in the right direction. So for example, you implemented design, you need to seek feedback from the designers, or you implemented some feature, you need to demo that feature to stakeholders so that you can make sure that you're on track and you're implementing what was planned initially. So what are the project stages? There are 5 main project stages: initiation, planning, execution, monitoring and control, and closure. So initiation, it means that you initially gather people around some problem, you define that problem, and you decide to implement some product or feature to solve that problem. Second stage is planning. You basically like go through all the planning stages, which I will describe in the later slides. Then you execute on that plans. So you basically do all the engineering work, programming, designing, etc. And then you launch your project. Then you monitor and control your launch project, your execution of your project, and the launch. You see that everything is on track, and that the outcome you have is what you have intended. You monitor the metrics, etc. And last one is closure. So closure means that you close the project and do some next steps after the project launch, etc. So I will stop in each of the important stages in the later slides. So one of the big steps one of the big stages in the project lifecycle is planning. So planning starts with the goal setting. So first, before you actually start executing, you need to set goals, like what is the North Star, what are you trying to achieve with that project. Second thing is you need to have a plan. So how you will achieve that goal that you set. And you need to define tasks and time estimations. So you need to you need to break down your plan into tasks, into smaller pieces, and you need to estimate them. Your estimations will be always wrong, so that's totally fine. You don't need to like worry about that too much, but at least you need to do your best to estimate how long it will take, how many resources it will take. And if you don't quite like guess the right estimation, that's totally fine. And the more estimations you do, the more you will be good at it. Next thing is you need to prioritize the tasks. So you need to prioritize which tasks are important to deliver, P0s, for example, like priority 0. And you need to define which tasks are less important, for example, P1s or even like P2. So P0 is like must have. We can't live without it. Like project won't be launched without it. P1s is like we can deliver it. It's like some improvements, etc. And P2 is like minor improvements that that not blocking your project at all. So you need to prioritize like what's important and what's not important at this stage. Next thing is resources and budget. You need to define how many engineers you need, how many time you need, how many like money you need to execute this project. So you need to allocate that budget and discuss like who is the I don't know, sponsor of that project. You need to discuss all of these resources. Next one is success metrics. So you have a goal and you need to define what is the success for you. For example, if you are launching, let's say, some new application, etc., is it registration rate? Is it like buying some stuff on your platform? Is it certain like number of people on the platform, etc., etc.? So there could be many metrics which can be success metrics. You need to define those metrics along like with the stakeholders. Execution stage. So after you have completed the planning, you move on to execution. Execution basically means completion of the assigned tasks. So in the planning stage, we define some tasks that we need to complete to achieve our goals. Execution, you actually start executing on those tasks. You need to like implement some designs, implement some functionality, coding, etc., etc. During the execution, it's very, very important to communicate with the stakeholders. So on each execution stage, you need to have some kind of way to communicate the progress with the stakeholders. Either it could be weekly meetings, it could be some emails, it could be some chat messages, etc. Progress monitoring, it basically means that because there will be like if it's like a medium-sized project, there could be multiple engineers working on that project. You need to monitor that everyone is on track, no one is getting blocked, everyone is able to execute on their tasks. Very important piece of the execution stage is risk management. If you see that something potentially might block your project, if you see the risk that impacting your launch, your success metrics, etc., you need to highlight that to the stakeholders, and you need to address that risk early on. Some people might be stressed about the project execution, and sometimes people might not pay enough attention to the risks. They might hide the risks, for example, try to, don't upset the team, don't upset leadership or something like that. And they might not talk about the risks, like try to neglect the risk. But it's very, very bad mistake in the project management. If you see something bad happening, if you see something wrong, you need to highlight that. You need to address that. You need to try to solve that problem before it will actually go to next stage and it will eventually block your project. And again, if someone highlights some risks, you need to again like pay attention and try to address those risks. And the last stage during the execution is actually launching the project. Launching again like might involve stuff like deploying your project, monitoring health of your project, etc. So after the launch and like getting all the results and all the learnings from the projects, you basically need to study those results. You need to understand if the goal you were trying to achieve, you have achieved, if the success metrics you have set are correct, and do all the like learnings from that project, like what's went really well, what's went not really well, what kind of risks impacted your project, how to avoid those risks in the future. And you need to document those learnings for the future and celebrate success with the team. So celebrating the success of the team is really important, I think, during the project life cycle, because that helps people to get excited, to motivate them for the future, and yeah. So this is a really good thing to do. I also want to share the best practices from my experience. This is based on the issues I encountered during my experience. So first one is communication. 99% of the problems inside the project happens because of the communication issues. Either it is not communicating enough, so try to over communicate. So if you think that someone doesn't know something, try to tell that person, like over communicate. Try to share updates, share plans, like be like a, like a broadcaster, like a radio. You need to broadcast the project plans, project goals, etc., to the team as a project owner if you are leading the project. And you need to be very open to the feedback from your team. So if the team providing you some feedback, be open-minded and try to address the concerns or issues, risks, anything your team shares with you. Next one is planning. So the common problem in the project management is not missing the deadlines. So there is a lot of you probably face this in your own career, that a lot of the time you don't meet the deadlines, or you don't complete your feature on time, or the feature is completed but it's not the way you want it, and the quality of the feature is not really great. That means that initially when you were planning, you didn't plan it right. So you need to really pay attention on the planning stage, and how well you plan, it means that your project will be executed and launched at the end. If your planning is good, your project launch will be good. If your planning is not really good, then that means that you will have issues during the execution and launching of the project. In the planning, you need to, again, try to manage risks. Try to think about the resources that you have. For example, how many time you would need for design, how many time you would need for engineering work to do, how many time you would need to test the feature, to write tests, fix some bugs, etc. So there are lots of obstacles during the project that you might encounter. Try to address those issues as early as possible during the planning stage. Don't ignore them. They will pop up anyway. You won't get rid of all the issues. Be flexible about your decisions. So we are living in a real world, not ideal world, and there are lots of cases when your project go the direction you are not planned. For example, market might change, the company values might change, company direction might change, budget might change, etc., etc. So there are lots of uncertainties during the way that might impact your project, and you need to be flexible about it. For example, if you are feeling like your project is not you were so your project is not solving the problem you were trying to solve initially. Maybe you need to like change the direction of your project. Or for example, during the project execution, you might find that some features can be doable or like very challenging to do, or not required, for example, for the customers, etc. In that case, it is okay to change scope of the project a little bit to fit into that picture. But you don't need to do that every time. So changing project during the execution time, it's not a great practice. But if you feel like you need to change direction a little bit to meet the goal, that's totally fine. You need to be flexible, again, like open-minded about project execution. The plans that you set in the initial, they are not set in the stone. They might be changed. They might be impacted with the real world issues. So you need to be flexible about it. Next thing, I already mentioned that a few times, risk management. Again, I would say that if you see any issues inside your project, any risks that might block, don't keep it silent. Try to communicate that with the stakeholders, with the engineering team as early as possible. Hiding risks won't help you to launch successful project. So if you are bringing out the risks to the team, that means that that won't show you in a bad picture. So you won't be like that won't tell that you are a bad project manager or something like that. So highlighting risks and managing those risks, addressing those risks, that's what makes you a good project manager. Next one is less is better. Time spent on a project inversely proportional to the success of that project. So it means that longer you execute on the project, longer you plan on the project, longer you launch the project, it means that it reduces the success of the project. Also, same applies to the size of the size and the team of the project. So larger project you have, larger team you have, it reduces the probability that your project will be successful at the end. So what you can do about it? For example, imagine you have a big feature, a big product that will take around 1 year, 2 years period, and in that case, the 1 year or 2 year period is very in the software engineering, it's a very big timeline. During that 1 year, 2 years, everything might change. Your company direction might change. Your customers' preferences might change during that time. So what is good to do in that case is basically break down your project in some stages. For example, you might take 6 months to launch alpha version of the project, ship it to the, I don't know, your team, your stakeholders, your alpha users, get feedback from them and improve and iterate on it early on. Then, for example, next 3 months, 6 months, launch the beta version. Again, ship it to the beta customers, get feedback, improve do some bug cases, etc. And basically, next few months, you can go to general availability, launch it to the production. So basically, your project overall took 1.5 years, let's say. But because you broke it down into the smaller stages, you increase the probability of success of your project. You reduce the iteration time of iteration of your project. So basically, after first 6 months, you get feedback from the customers. Next 6 months, you again got feedback from your customers, and every time you improved your project during that period. So you were not like going into some cave and like locking you down for 1.5 years and like shipping some project that doesn't have anything to do with the real world problems. So try to break it down your project. That will help to make your project more successful and do it in iterations. Next one is timing. So as I mentioned, during the project execution, the issue people face is time. So not meeting the deadlines or not completing all the features till the deadline. So what you can do in that case? So this is like common problem that I face, that you probably faced, and everyone I think who dealt with the project management faced. So basically, there are two like most common ways to fix that. So first one, you need to cut the features. So if you have some amount of time and you were not able to complete that amount of features during that time, it means that you did probably poor planning, but it means that either the number of features you allocated is too big, it doesn't fit this timeline, or if you need all the features and you can't cut some features off, that means that you need to extend that timeline to fit all the features you need to implement. So basically, you can either go two ways. One is that either you cut your features so that it fits your time, or if all the features are important, then you extend your timeline to so that it will be enough to complete all the features you aimed for. There is a bad practice that people usually do in this case. So they try to spend more time, for example, like working at nights, working at weekends, putting more engineers in the project or something like that. That's a terrible decision. Why? Because, for example, like if you are working, your team is working at night, working on weekends, that's really negatively impacts your team morale. So your team probably, if they will be working on that pace all the time, they might burn out. And in short term, you might again like be successful and like launch the project, but in the long term, it negatively impacts your team, impacts your team health, etc. So that's not a good approach to do. And the other one is putting more engineers into project. Again, it not be a good decision depending on the situation. Why? Because new engineers, it means that there are lots of people to communicate to. There are lots of people to onboard to the project, and there is a lot of management across those new team members that you would need to do. So basically, more people actually can slow your project down. So you need to be very cautious about like adding more people to the project. If you're adding more people to the project in the beginning of the project, like during the planning, during the resource allocation, that's totally fine. But closer it gets to the launch date, the worse it will impact your project. So it's the same, like there is a joke saying that project manager is the person who thinks that 9 women can deliver a baby in 1 month. So that's not the case, right? So to deliver a baby, you need 9 months. So for some stuff, you can just throw money, throw people. You can't solve the problems like that. So some stuff needs time. So either, again, as I mentioned, try to cut the feature or extend the timeline. So that the common way to solve this problem with the deadlines. This is the end of my talk, and it's a Q&A section. We will have around roughly 15 minutes to, I will have roughly 15 minutes to answer your questions. Yeah, so there is a Q&A, there should be a Q&A like window on the, in the room, so you can post your questions, you can ask questions there if you have any. this is my first time running this event, and I'm not sure if you can ask directly, like through the microphone, I mean. So let me check. So people are posting in the chat. So Raman asking, what methods of prioritization do you use in your work? So how do you basically, like, how do you usually prioritize your projects? Not projects, but yeah, probably projects or tasks or some other stuff. So usually how we prioritize projects or tasks or other stuff. So it depends on what is the goal that we are trying to achieve. So for example, goal could be, improving the performance of your application. Let's say this half you're trying to improve the performance of your application. And when your team will come up some ideas, oh, let's do this, let's do that, etc. And you will have a bunch of ideas that can help to improve the performance of your application. But then you need to like actually see which one has more impact. So which way you can achieve more performance, and which way you can reach more audience or something like that, based on your perception. You can just stack rank them, so like sort them in order. Then you can try to put some data in, so that also could be helpful. For example, let's say if you're trying to increase the performance of the application, someone will say, oh, let's do some improvements on the back end, let's do some improvements on the front end code, etc. And you need to have some metrics that where is the bottleneck, is the bottleneck on the front end side, is the bottleneck on the back end side, etc. Also, you need to see, for example, if we are describing like different features that needs performance improvements in your project, let's say, you can check customer tickets, like who, like which customers, like which feature customers are complaining more about, this kind of stuff. So you can throw some numbers in it so that it will be easier to prioritize, etc., etc. So the more, so also you can use stuff like, how easy to implement that feature. So if you're optimizing, like, is it easier to fix something on the front end or something on the back end, and you can put, based on that, rank one higher, on one lower, etc. So actually there is like many ways you can prioritize your projects, your tasks, and it might be different again, like based on your project you're working on, organization you're working on, the problem you're trying to solve, etc. So basically try to get as many details of the problem you're trying to solve, and again try to make decisions based on numbers, based on some understanding of the project, understanding of the details, and yeah, so that could be helpful during the prioritization. Next one, Nazar. What is the most exciting thing about PM, project management, probably? Again, I'm not like full-time project manager. I am a software engineer. So I do, as I mentioned, if the project is small or medium size, I manage the projects. Otherwise, it's usually managed by product managers or engineering managers, etc. Exciting about the project management is basically, I see a lot of value in direction. So if you are thinking that your organization or your leadership doesn't get quite understand like where the project should go, you can be involved in the project management, in the project planning stage. You can share your opinion, actively share your feedback, and impact the direction of the project. And you can help people, for example, during the prioritization. As an engineer, you can help to investigate those projects, and you can highlight some risks or potential easy solutions to problems. And during the execution, again, you can impact the direction of the project. You can help other people to unblock them. You can help people mitigate risks as an engineer, I mean, etc. And being a project manager really helps to improve your accountability, helps to improve your communication skills, your negotiation skills, etc., etc. So it helps a lot to improve your soft skills as an engineer. And again, by managing project, you can impact the success of your team, success of your organization, etc. What application from Teams you can use to track the completion of tasks assigned to the team members? That's a good question. So I mentioned methodologies, right? So like Scrum, Kanban, Agile, etc. There could be also a question like which tools people use. Like, should I use Asana? Should I use I don't know, what was it? So I don't know, other like task management tools, Jira, yeah. So etc. So that doesn't really matter. In our organization, for example, we just use task list of tasks or something. In like other companies that I know, like big tech companies, they just use regular list of tasks. So there is nothing fancy. Maybe tasks, maybe folders or something like that. So you don't really need to worry about which tool to use. So whatever tool works best for your team, use that one. So sometimes if you have a very small team, you can manage tasks inside, I don't know, Excel file or Google Docs, something like that. So that doesn't matter. What are the main problems with planning in your current team? I'm not sure if it falls under the NDA or not. So yeah, probably I will skip this one. So as I mentioned, usually we face the same problems as anyone else, like not meeting the deadlines or not doing good planning, etc., etc. Next one is, what methods do you use for the tasks refinement? You have refinement sessions, or in how many stages does it happen? Again, there is no like planning stages set in stone. For example, oh, you need like n number of sessions to do this or n number of sessions to do that. Usually, it's up to you. So if you need 3 sessions to refine your projects, that's totally fine. If you need 1, also fine. Just make sure that you are involved the key people in the team, as I mentioned, like stakeholders, decision makers from the team. If those people are aligned and they're happy about the list of projects, list of tasks you have, then you're good to go. Yeah, I will pick up the last question, and because we are out of time. Next one, let's say. I will pick up some from the Q&A section. Best tool for the project management. Do you believe in the efficiency methodologies? Because do you believe in the efficiency of the methodologies? Because I see in many cases methodologies becoming cargo culting. In my experience, you should focus, number 1, working with mood and energy levels, normally planning with the daytime in the morning and focus tasks and afternoon in the meetings. What do you think about that? Regarding the second one, morning for the focus on tasks, afternoon for the meetings, that totally makes sense to me. I would also suggest to do a focus blocks during the execution. So for example, you can actually make a block in your calendar so that no one can book meetings during the morning time, and you can spend that time on your coding work. If you have too many meetings, you can throw the meetings at one day. For example, you might have like Thursdays or I don't know, Tuesdays for the meetings, and throw all the meetings one day, and you will have rest of your days free. For example, Monday you can have full day coding, or Wednesday full day coding. That could be helpful. Regarding the methodologies, I agree that sometimes it might become like, as you said, cargo culting. So basically like a dogma, that people just follow the stages of certain methodology just because it's written on the documentation or something like that. You don't have to do that. If you feel like the certain methodology is slowing you down, you can get rid of some elements. Or if you feel like something is good to your team, you can add those items to your project management methodology, basically. Thank you everyone for joining. That's all from my side. Thanks for your questions. Unfortunately, I won't be able to answer every question. So this is my social accounts. Follow me, connect to me, etc. And thanks. Hope that was helpful. Share your feedback in the discussions page, on the event page, etc. Yeah, thank you. Have a good day. Bye.